Fishing trips anywhere, anytime. FishingBooker.com.
Target shooters who blaze through hundreds of rounds in a weekend, or a casual shooter plinking at the range, shop Midway USA. We have a variety of 22 long rifle and other rimfire ammunition for plinking, and 12-gauge shotgun ammunition for the next sporting clays, tournament, or round of trap. Midway USA has ammunition for modern sporting rifles, as well as an industry-leading selection of traditional and classic cartridges. Stock up on handgun ammunition like 9mm, 45 ACP, and 38 Special. For just about everything for shooting, shop MidwayUSA.com.
Explore historic waterways in 2025 with Scenic on the most inclusive cruise on Europe's rivers. Enjoy up to 5 dining experiences, spacious suites, and butler service. Be immersed in the culture with enriching free choice excursions and exclusive events. Scenic, in a class of its own. Book now and save.
Today we're diving into a cooking method that's fast, flavorful, and perfect for wild foods, the stir fry. We'll break down what makes stir fry such a versatile technique, explore its deep roots in Chinese culinary history, and walk you through the essential steps to mastering it at home. From choosing the right wok and oils to learning how to velvet game meat like goose or venison. We'll cover everything you need to bring wok high to your kitchen. Whether you're stir-frying wild greens or turning last night's roast into something fresh and exciting, this episode is packed with tips, stories, and wild food inspiration. Let's get cooking.
Join Justin Townsend and the Harvesting Nature crew as they explore the world of cooking wild fish and game while sharing recipes, tips, tricks, and lessons learned from their pursuit of wild food. We sure hope you ate before the show, 'cause you're gonna leave hungry. This is the Wild Fish and Game Podcast.
Good cooking lies in capturing the essence of ingredients, not overwhelming them. When sautéing or quick frying, do not overcook. Let the fragrance rise. Let the texture remain crisp. If vegetables become limp or meat loses its spring, the dish is lost. Use high heat, move quickly, and never turn your back to the wok. Yuan Mei, The Way of Eating, 1792.
So today we're talking about stir fry, as you can discern from all the cool things happening. And I think, this Wild Kitchen episode is going to be really cool. A lot of people stir fry. A lot of people talk about stir frying. A lot of people have various takes on stir frying. So it's going to be interesting to see where we end up with your thoughts on what stir frying is. So first up, before we dive into everything, let's talk current events real quick. Rolling out some awesome shirts and stickers and stuff in the store. Turkey season is in full swing. I got to do a little turkey hunting while we were at our wild pig camp down in Texas. We had a great camp. Hank was there, Adam was there, Leland was there, I was there, and 12 other awesome folks were there as well. And we all got the opportunity to sort of interact, hang out, shoot, hunt, cook, eat. Oh my gosh, there was so much good food. It was definitely very Mexican food focused. I think that was a lot because of Hank's new upcoming book. He's been deeply steeped in Mexican cuisine for the last year or so, and it's been cool to see that. And it was cool to taste it. We got to cook on the discada, which if you go over to Instagram, you'll see that there. On his page, actually. I think in our stories as well. Maybe not this late in time, but they're there. Lots of cool fun had and was a great camp. Our next camp is halfway full already, so if you're interested in attending, you need to hop on and get your deposit down. A $350 deposit secures your seat and gives you time to save up the rest of the money to come to camp in December with us. That's going to be the second week of December. It's going to be an awesome camp again. We're really excited for it. And then, who knows? Opportunities for other camps are on the horizon. We'll be sharing more news as things develop in the future. Sausage book is going great. People are loving it. We're getting lots of good feedback about it. So please pick yourself up a copy so you can knock out some sweet sausage making. And then, as mentioned in our last podcast episode, I'm really excited to be heading to Missoula in June to do some cooking at the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers Rendezvous. So, over to you, Adam.
Yeah, I'm just recovering from pig camp a little bit. It's always a lengthy journey home, and not a lot of sleep over there because we're always having so much fun. So I think I slept for 15 hours straight when I finally arrived at home, which is, I don't know if I've ever done that in my life. It's kind of funny. So now I'm just getting everything kind of back in order, all the stuff I ignored for the last week while I was gone, and getting ready for turkey hunting, starting to practice my box call about 3 months too late, but better late than never. And yeah, getting super excited for it. I'm just thinking turkey at all points in time right now.
Yeah, it's wild how it just kind of starts to consume you, huh?
Yeah. I'm thinking turkey stir fry too. Then I'm already thinking what I'm going to be cooking with the bird that I haven't shot yet. So
I'm excited. I'm debating going out to Virginia to go see a friend this weekend and doing some turkey hunting and probably some foraging too, because there's a national forest over there. So might do that a bit as well while we're there. But we'll see. I got to wrap up some work tomorrow here at home and decide if I'm going to drive over there in the afternoon. But turkey time is here, so pretty exciting.
You got to get out for it.
Yeah. It's got to be a thing. Already. Got close in Texas, but no cigar. So we just didn't have enough time to dedicate it there. Camps are always really busy. Well, let's start talking about stir fry. So you might be wondering, what the heck is a stir fry? Well, a stir fry is a quick cooking technique that originated in China, and it involves frying bite-sized ingredients, typically a mixture of vegetables, proteins, and aromatics over high heat in a small amount of oil while constantly stirring or tossing. This method relies on the hot pan, which was traditionally a wok, as you may have learned in our little fun audio clip, and to sear the food rapidly, which tends to preserve the texture, the color, and the flavor. I think that this is the divergence point where a lot of people in America go with their stir frying. There's usually like some meat, some vegetables, and like a shitload of sauce.
Yeah.
And that is not what a traditional stir fry is. It's traditional stir fry is more akin to what you get at the like Chinese takeout place. So stir fries are known for their balance of tender, crisp vegetables, flavorful sauces, and perfectly cooked proteins, all achieved in just a few minutes. So this technique is both practical and versatile, making it ideal for weeknight meals or creative culinary improvisation. Jesus, Adam.
I like throwing those in for you.
Yeah, thanks. Stir frying is a perfect technique for many wild foods. So yes, all that is true. I'll say this, that think about how you stir fry. I grew up with the soupy stir fry. There's nothing wrong with it. It makes a meal, right? But at the end of the day, like if you want to stir fry, then we will teach you to stir fry. Just listen up, because there's lots and lots of cool stuff with this stir frying techniques that I think you're going to appreciate. And it might just introduce a couple steps that are going to change the way you stir fry. But first, let's roll back in time.
Yeah, let's get into the history of the stir fry. So stir frying was first used as a cooking method in ancient China, which probably isn't too surprising. It was during the Han Dynasty, which went from about 206 BCE to about 220 CE or AD. Cooking food quickly over high heat was already popular at the time due to the scarcity of wood and charcoal in many regions. So if you think of like the roaring fire with a cauldron bubbling over all day, like in Europe, like that just wasn't possible in all places because serious lack of wood and coal. A lot of people were burning dung at the time, or small amounts of wood, or even dried bamboo husks and stuff like that. So it would burn really hot for a short period of time, but didn't have any real lasting power. So you want to cook your meals very quickly. Those large fires are way too laborious to maintain. So like simmering, steaming, sautéing, and shallow frying were generally the cooking methods of choice in China at the time. These methods conserve both time and resources while maintaining flavor. And if anyone knows anything about real Chinese food, flavor is paramount. They do a really good job at maintaining delicious flavors through their cooking methods. Eventually, a kitchen tool took shape that would accomplish all this very efficiently, and that was called the wok, which we've already mentioned. Wok is round bottom, generally round bottom cooking vessel with sloped sides that allows for efficient heat distribution, easy stirring, and minimal use of oil. I'm sure we've all seen the wok. You can just picture it's different from the saute pan or whatever we have because that kind of wide angled dish. If you'd be cooking over a fire, it would often be round bottom. Most woks in the West will be flat bottom nowadays just due to the shape of our stoves. The wok was likely first used not to cook food, but as a tool to efficiently dry grain in agricultural areas. So people would be stirring grains over the fire in like a metal dish, basically to dry them out. To parch them. The term wok comes from the Cantonese, which is generally found in the south of China, but the pan's utility quickly made it indispensable throughout all of China. Or most of China used a wok then and uses a wok now. One of the most distinctive qualities of stir frying in a wok is something called wok hai, and that's a Cantonese term meaning the breath of the wok. This refers to like a unique smoky flavor and aroma that results from cooking food at very high temperatures in a well-seasoned wok. So as you're flipping the food up, it's kind of aerosolizing the oil vapors, which are then kind of catching fire and burning off. And that creates this like really special flavor. If you've had really good, even Chinese American food, you probably know that flavor, and it's very hard to replicate at home. But the wok, you can get that off a wok. You can't really get that off a frying pan. Achieving that wok hai requires skillful tossing, precise timing, intense heat, and is considered a hallmark of masterful stir frying, and is particularly prized in Cantonese cuisine. If you guys have ever been to like a really good restaurant, whether even like the in the mall when they're all stir frying over those super hot woks on the jet broilers, you can see how that wok hai can kind of come about. As Chinese culinary practice evolved, stir frying gained popularity not only for its efficiency but also for its flavor and its versatility in new dishes. By the time the Tang Dynasty, which is around 600 to 900 CE, and even more so during the Ming Dynasty, which is closer to 1300 to 1600s, stir frying had become a common cooking technique amongst both the professional chefs across China and in the big banquet halls and for home cooks. It started appearing in early Chinese cookbooks and was especially valued among the upper classes who appreciated light, refined dishes that emphasized the natural flavors of fresh ingredients as opposed to more coarse kind of country fare. During this time, regional variations of the stir fry started to develop. So, for example, Sichuan cuisine, which is my personal favorite regional Chinese cuisine, became known for its bold, spicy stir fries, lots of chili peppers, Sichuan peppercorns. That mala is a hot and numbing kind of flavor. While Cantonese dishes from the south kind of lean more towards lighter sauces, really delicate seasonings, lots of seafood. By the 1900s, most Chinese homes owned a wok, although due to the high cost and scarcity of cooking fats at that time, most families were still using their woks for steaming and braising rather than actually stir-frying. Once fats are more available commercially, stir-frying became more and more popular. So fat was hard to come by at certain points in history. So steaming would have been much more available to the common person. Global spread of stir fry began in earnest during the 19th and 20th centuries as Chinese immigrants introduced the technique to new regions, particularly through Southeast Asia and the Americas. These diaspora communities adapted the stir frying method to local ingredients and tastes, resulting in popular fusion dishes. So many of the Thai and Vietnamese dishes that actually started out as Chinese dishes made by these immigrants. And if you think of like how many Chinese people came over and worked on the railroads, how many came over and built the canal in Panama, how many, end up in Jamaica and all over the place, this Chinese diaspora just spread the stir frying technique. So you can find stir fries in so many different cuisines that, the Chinese introduced them and then the local people took the technique and made it their own. This is pretty cool. The word stir fry didn't actually appear in its English translation until 1945. In her book, How to Cook and Eat in Chinese, one of the first English books actually written about Chinese food, a woman named Bu Wei Yang Chow, whose name incidentally means stir fry in Cantonese, so Chow means stir fry. She writes, quote, "Chow cannot be accurately translated into English. Roughly speaking, chow may be defined as a big fire, shallow fat, continual stirring, quick frying of cut up material with wet seasoning. So we shall call it stir fry." And that's a little simpler, I think. We've been going through it every time we want dinner. In the United States, stir fry gained widespread popularity in the 70s and 80s, and this was fueled by a growing interest, first of all, in international cuisine and also health conscious eating. So that fat scare in the 80s really pushed along wok cookery and stir fry because it's seen as a healthy way to eat. And anyone who likes shopping for cookbooks at thrift stores, which Justin and I both do, and we just did recently together. And I think you bought a Chinese cookbook from the 70s or 80s.
Yeah, I think I bought two, didn't I?
Yeah. So anyone who's been to those has seen the prevalence of how many of these kind of came about it during that time. The techniques emphasis on fresh vegetables, lean proteins, minimal fat, kind of aligned with the nutritional trends. So you just saw it a lot. And then cookbooks, television shows, and culinary magazines really embraced it. I don't know if you guys remember Walk with Yan on when you were younger. Right in the end, it was something I watched when I was quite young, and that's where I first kind of learned about stir fry.
Nice.
But that really cemented its place in mainstream Western cooking. And stir fry is still popular today and plays a role in many families of different ethnicities' weeknight dinner rotation. So you go for Chinese people doing it their traditional way to other families, kind of like the soupy stir fries you've talked about, or African stir fries, or all sorts of different stuff that's all over. It's kind of permeated through our entire food system across the world, which is a pretty cool thing to see. And that is the history.
I think some stories just to relate real quick to kind of what we were talking about. Growing up, I think deer stir fry was a very frequent item that was prepared at my house. My grandmother would make it with strips of deer meat with broccoli and garlic and some sort of sauce, combination there over rice. That was a pretty straightforward, pretty healthy meal too, that we really enjoyed. We didn't use a wok though. She'd do it in she had an electric skillet that she liked doing it. She didn't always heating up the house in the summer, which is an interesting correlation to stir fry in summer. But yeah, that's what I remember.
True. Yeah, I remember we didn't really eat stir fry too often growing up, but I was aware of it. But I remember going to college and there was a cafeteria there, and I was jealous because so many people got to eat at the cafeteria and I had no money at all. So I was usually eating crackers at home with hot sauce. But when I had a couple extra bucks for that cafeteria, I think it was Thursdays, it was stir fry day. And there'd be a huge lineup of kids who hadn't eaten a vegetable in a week or a month or a year lining up to get a stir fry because it was the healthiest thing in the cafeteria. And I remember the women there would just throw a bunch, all the stuff you wanted into a pot and just cook it down until it was a soupy, mushy mess, serve it with rice, and it was the best thing that they served there and the healthiest thing probably. So that was my first real exposure to the family style stir fry, and then it would have been Chinese takeout and Chinese restaurants where I started getting the kind of the real authentic style of stir fry. And then at home my stir fry started out pretty soupy, and I really trained myself over the years to get better and better, so they're a little more authentic, a little more crispy, which I enjoy.
Yeah, I think I've gotten the same way too. First off, preparing it, I've had the same wok now for almost 20 years. No, 15 years, I'd say. So I'm at 35. So going back, when I was 20, I got it. It's pretty beat up. It's the one of the carbon steel ones, so it rusts if you leave it out. But it's got two wood handles on it that are charred because they got heated in the oven one day. There's lots of stuff that goes on with it, but it's got great flavor and it works really, really well. So we continue to use it.
Yeah. Seen some miles, has some stories to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the most interesting adaptation of the wok that I've seen was this past weekend, right? I mentioned the discada, which Hank describes basically as a Mexican wok. It was cool seeing it. And I wasn't there for the cooking, so maybe you could explain. I was there for the eating, the most important part. Yeah. But you were there for the cooking. Can you explain a little bit how he used the discada?
Yeah, so the discada, if you just picture it like a big wok, it just has horseshoes actually tacked to the sides basically, and it sits over a big fire burner, and he started off some bacon in there to get the fat going, and then starts adding small chopped up ingredients like you would put in tacos or like a normal Chinese stir fry, one at a time in an order, and they would continue cooking, and then basically add the sauce and let it all stew down for a very small amount of time. And in the end, you ended up with kind of what looked like kind of a stew, kind of a stir fry, kind of this Mexican thing, and we all just took tortillas, and you basically just go and grab, jam the tortillas right into the kind of braised stuff in the discada, and pick it up and eat it like that. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, it was so good too.
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, so you find this kind of cookery like throughout the world, and it's pretty cool to see.
I would argue this too, and I'm gonna throw this. This is gonna be a reach. I would say that even like, gosh, what's the name of that griddle that everybody, the Blackstone craze, is a form of stir fry.
Definitely, yeah, it's true.
Because you're using just a little bit of fat, and you're cooking on something at very high heat to like quickly sear and do it. And I've seen a lot of people, really latch on to that thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like the big flat wok, basically, because you got more room to toss things around than in like a skillet pan.
Yeah,
but you can't quite get that wok high because you don't have.
You're not.
Corners in it.
You're not doing that. But so I'll say too, I think that the origin of the discada is very interesting because it was like the plow discs were pounded out into round. So old plow discs that weren't sharp anymore were pounded out to make like the discada. And I saw something as I was researching today about a hypothesis of the origins of the wok came from soldiers cooking in their helmets, which I think it's very common across the militaries. If we look, back through military history and food of that being very much the case. So cool, interesting thoughts around that. But if you yourself do not have a wok and are looking for a wok, I've got some tips for you. So I'll start off with Grace Young, the author of The Breadth of a Wok and Stir Frying to the Sky's Edge, emphasizes that a true stir fry requires a wok. So an absolute necessity. According to her, if you stir fry in a skillet, you're just chasing the ingredients around the pan. While a skillet can get hot, it doesn't deliver the same results. What sets a wok apart is its shape and heat dynamics, which allow food to move quickly and efficiently through various temperature zones. This makes stir frying in a wok fundamentally different from cooking in a flat-bottomed pan. Choose a flat-bottomed, seasoned carbon steel wok with a long handle and a size that fits your stovetop. Shop Asian markets for the best deals. I agree with that wholeheartedly, right? Yeah. So I already spilled the beans on what my wok is, but I don't know. What's your wok, Adam?
I got the carbon steel wok has got one big long handle. I can lift it very easily. Kind of a bigger guy, so it's easy if you're a little smaller, or if you have a harder time lifting something with one hand, you might want to get the double-handled one. But really, it's all up to choice. It doesn't really matter. I like the longer handle because I can have like some ripping hot heat underneath and not have my hand like right over top of the heat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just bought it from an Asian market 10 years ago or something, and yeah, it's awesome. It does a trick. They're not expensive, really.
No.
There's no need to go out. There's some things you should buy a good knife, you should buy a good this or that. Yeah, wok, if you just fit with the parameters that we've given you, you can just go and buy one for like $20.
Don't buy the non-stick ones.
No.
Don't buy the cast iron ones. Like, get a carbon steel one.
Yeah.
That's the way to go. And season it. Season.
Yeah.
To make it best.
Want to plan your next fishing trip without the hassle? FishingBooker.com is the best way to find and book a fishing charter anywhere in the world. Whether you're chasing trophy fish or just looking for a family day on the water, Fishing Booker makes it simple, fast, and secure. With thousands of experienced guides, verified reviews, and 24/7 customer support, Fishing Booker takes the guesswork out of planning. Visit FishingBooker.com and book your trip today. Fishing Booker. Fishing trips made easy.
Hey, what's up, happy people? This is Robert Arrington from Deer Meat for Dinner. If you're into bow fishing like I am, you need to check out Cajun Bow Fishing. I've been using their gear for years, from the Sucker Punch Pro to the Winch Pro Reel. It's tough, it's reliable, and it works. Whether you're just getting started or you're ready to take the step to the next level, head over to CajunBowfishing.com and check out everything Cajun Bow Fishing has to offer. I trust their gear because it works. So if you're hitting the water soon, make sure you're rigged up with Cajun Bow Fishing. You will not regret it.
Let's talk a little bit about the actual stir frying. Here's some steps to correctly stir fry. And most of this information came out of Kenji Alt Lopez at Serious Eats and the folks over at Walks of Life. These are both two great websites. If you want to like go and improve your food a little bit, go and do a little deep dive. So first step, hot wok, cold oil. Begin by heating your wok until it's very hot, then add oil. This method will help prevent food from sticking and promotes even cooking. Your step 2, which is really more conceptual because it's not really a step in the process, but you want to prep everything before you cook it. Stir frying is so rapid, so quick in order to get everything cooked at that high heat kind of evenly. You want to have all your ingredients, your meats, your vegetables, your sauces prepared and like laid out in little cups, that mise en place. Everything's in its place, ready to go, ready to be cooked. That's what you want with stir fry. If not, you're going to like lose that element if you have to turn to chop something and throw it in. Speaking of, slice all your ingredients uniformly. Cut your meats and your vegetables into uniform bite-sized pieces to ensure they cook evenly with an optimal texture. So roughly all the same size is what you're going for. That explains why in stir fry you see big chunks of onion, big chunks of peppers, big chunks of meat. They all kind of match. So just stick to that rule of thumb. Another great element to enhance the flavor is you're going to want to marinate and velvet your proteins. So marinating your meats with cornstarch, oil, and seasoning, that's going to tenderize them and add a lot of really good flavor. Velveting is a technique that involves coating and briefly pre-cooking the meats. That can also improve the texture. Then after that, you want to cook in batches. You don't want to just throw everything all in the pan. So cooking in batches is going to avoid the overcrowding inside the wok, and that way it sort of like layers on. It ensures that your high heat's maintained, and it leads to better searing and flavor development. Think like, the easiest way I think about it is like building a soup. You add a little bit, you add a little bit, you add a little bit. You don't just dump everything all in there. Well, maybe some people do, but then you want to add the ingredients in the right order. So this takes a little bit of forethought. Maybe scratch it down on a piece of paper so that if you're under fire, under stress with your wok, which it shouldn't be a stressful process, but it can be, I get it. Start with your aromatics first, like garlic, lemongrass, and ginger. Then follow it with your proteins, then your vegetables, and then last, sauces. This sequence is important because it ensures that everything gets cooked properly. That's really vital. That's how you don't end up with this soupy, goopy stir fry.
Definitely. And I find if you're making your mise en place, so you got your little line of bowls full of chopped ingredients, you can line them up in order of when they should go in, and that kind of helps you when you're in the heat of the moment. Yeah. So a couple more tips. Maintain a high heat. So stir frying requires constant high heat to achieve that characteristic sear and some of that wok high. So you want that stove cranked. So you want your hood fan on. A lot of Chinese homes or Asian homes in general have. It's really cool. It's like almost like a little phone booth in the kitchen, and you go climb in under into like the plastic phone booth, and then there's a crazy strong hood fan inside that, and then you got your like jet fuel rocket basically cooking, like where you do all your wok cookery. Most kitchens don't have that, so get your exhaust fan going, maybe open a window or two and get that heat high. And that's why we don't want to use nonstick woks, because high heat burns that nonstick stuff right off and it gets all in your body and your food is terrible. You're going to want to use the right oil. So because we're cooking so hot, we want to choose oils with high smoke points. So that's kind of like your peanut, grapeseed, your canola oil, avocado oil. I find lard works pretty well as too. If you try stir frying in olive oil or something like that, or nut oil, other than peanut, you're gonna end up with a smoke show in the house, and it's gonna taste acrid, and
you're gonna smoke out the BHA rendezvous.
Yeah. I don't know how we know that. I don't know. So you want to keep the wok moving. So get a favorite spoon. Another good reason not to have a nonstick wok is you want like a good like metal spoon that you can kind of scrape everything along the bottom really fast. That will just scrape that liner right off. So stick to your carbon steel and just keep moving things around. Like it's called a stir fry for a reason, because you're constantly stirring it. Now, I will give a little caveat with that. If you're working on an old kind of crappy coil stove, which I have at one of my places here, I still cook on one of these kind of junky old stoves. The heat goes up and down. You know, each element is different. It doesn't get that hot sometimes. Sometimes I'll let everything sit for 20, 30 seconds at a time before stirring to get that like sear on it, that edge. But if you have like a gas stove or an induction stove or any of those things, you'll be fine. Just keep that stirring. Deglaze when necessary. So deglazing is when you're adding a liquid to the pan to loosen up the stuff that's sticking to the bottom. And that stuff is called a fond, or the brown bits on the bottom. If the wok develops a fond while you're cooking it, and it probably will because you're working really high heat, deglaze it with a small amount of liquid like broth or wine to incorporate those flavors into the dish and to avoid it from burning before the dish is done. So you're kind of like one of those little squeeze bottles. You can fill it up with I like to have like mushroom stock in them. You can give it a little squirt and scrape everything up quickly when you're halfway through your stir fry. That really helps. Finish with the sauce. Add your prepared sauce towards the end of the cooking to coat the ingredients evenly and bring the dish together. I often like adding cornstarch to my sauce, a little bit of cornstarch that helps thicken everything quickly and provides that glistening kind of sheen to the sauce. But you got to make sure, since you've prepared your sauce beforehand and not during cooking, cornstarch very quickly settles to the bottom of the bowl or container. So you want to make sure you give it a quick whip with a fork before dumping it in, or it'll all just be left on the bottom. Lastly, serve immediately. Stir-fried dishes are best enjoyed fresh off the wok. They go limp and gray pretty quickly, so it's best served hot. I always have leftover stir-fries all the same, and they reheat okay, but they're not the same. If you made your stir-fry with rice, I highly recommend storing your leftover rice separately from your leftover stir-fry, because as the stir-fry sits, it will release lots of juices. The rice will just soak it all up, and it will just turn into a gloppy mess. So store those separately in the fridge. Talking about rice, everyone has their own kind of rice that they like working with. I find for stir fries, like as a base to stir fries, jasmine rice is just a great all-purpose rice. It's not too long, not too short. It's not too sticky. It's nice and scented and has a good, nice fragrance. It's easy to cook, cooks fast. It's like 1.5 cups of water to 1 cup of rice, easy to remember. You can make it with like some chicken stock or mushroom or vegetable stock to make it taste a little better. So I use jasmine for all my kind of stir fries. Unless I'm doing like an Indian style, I might use basmati. What do you use, Justin? Do you have a preference?
Basmati usually, or jasmine. Yeah,
jasmine,
I like the aromatics of jasmine, but the basmati is also a good go-to. It really just depends on whatever I grab at the store.
Yeah, and it's all up to your own taste too. So there's no need to be picky, except when buying pre-cooked or boiled rice, like the minute rice or those bags of pre-cooked rice that you throw in the microwave. Just stop buying that crap. It's not that hard to make rice. I make it in the pot all the time. You just follow the instructions and it turns out great. You can buy a rice cooker if that's
I have a rice cooker. Yeah,
rice cookers are awesome. There's no need to keep buying that stuff. I say we put an end to it. Pitchforks and torches and all. Just get rid of that junk. So one thing to mention, I think we should maybe do a whole episode on fried rice one day, but if we're making fried rice, which is very similar to a stir fry, you want to add cold rice to the pan or leftover rice to the pan. So basically when you have rice that's freshly cooked, it's still got a lot of moisture in it, and that moisture has to cook off once it hits the pan, and that's going to lead to kind of like a soggy, mushier rice, fried rice in the end. So it's much better if you cook your rice the day before, leave it in the fridge overnight. It will slightly desiccate it a bit, meaning that when it hits the pan, it hits that hot oil, it's going to start frying immediately. It doesn't have to like lose water first, and that's going to lead to a much tastier end product if you're doing like a fried rice kind of deal. So there's a hot tip for you.
So on the alternative side of rice, you've got noodles as a preferred starch. I like noodles. Noodles are great. But most noodles, like rice noodles, lo mein, or udon, you're going to need to cook them before, either fully boiled or soaked before you even get into stir frying. You're not trying to cook them in the pan with the vegetables and the liquid. That's too slow. That's not going to work. Cook them in water or soak them until they're just al dente. That way you avoid those mushy flavors. And then drain them well and toss with a little bit of oil. Set them aside with all your other ingredients so they're ready to go in. Stir frying's, as we mentioned, all about timing. So cook your proteins, your vegetables, then you add your noodles towards the end. This prevents overcooking the noodles and allows them to soak up any flavors in the sauce. So after the sauce. That way, you get it fully coated, they're really yummy, and it's going to come off piping hot. Stick with the high heat. Stir-fried noodles over high heat, tossing them gently with your tongs or a spatula, so you might have to switch away from the spoon. Be careful not to break them up by over-stirring, especially with softer noodles like rice or egg noodles. They're really kind of delicate. You don't want like little short pieces of noodles in your food. You want those long, beautiful noodles.
Definitely. Sometimes before I've stir-fried the noodles on their own first, set them aside, cook my stir-fry, and then add them in at the very end, and then it adds like a crispy kind of oily noodle. So there's lots of options when it comes to that.
I sometimes will cook all my vegetables and meat and stuff and then pull them out and then put the noodles in and heat them up real quick and then put everything back together.
Yeah, exactly. And on that note, I'm going to talk about velveting a little bit, which Justin mentioned earlier. So often I like to velvet my meat, stir fry it, take it out of the wok, stir fry everything else, and add it back in the end. That kind of makes for a buffer against overcooked meat. But I'll get into velveting here. It's one of my favorite techniques with wild game. Velveting meat with baking soda, which is a technique also known as alkaline marination. It involves using a little bit of baking soda to tenderize the meat, which makes it way more tender and juicy, especially for stir fries. And this process can be used for like any domestic, any wild game, and even like seafood. My favorite to use it with is goose breast, actually. So you typically add about 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda per about 8 ounces or so of thinly sliced meat. So we're not looking at these like, I see a lot of stir fry meat in the grocery store or something, and it's like each piece of meat is like the size of my index finger, and that's not good. Like you want nicely thinly sliced pieces of meat or smaller cubed pieces of meat. You don't want these big honking things in your stir fry. They take too long to cook. They're going to be tough and chewy. It's no good. So nice and thinly sliced. You're going to mix the baking soda with a little bit of water or soy sauce, or you can even do like a little wine or sherry. Let it all marinate for about 20 minutes. Rinse it off if you'd like to. I don't always rinse it off. And then you throw it into the stir fry. You can also do a velveting technique with just cornstarch that doesn't tenderize quite as nicely. So you do exactly what I just said with cornstarch instead of baking soda. And there's another one with egg whites as well. So there's a few different things, but I find for wild game, baking soda is your friend. It will help create this kind of tender thing. I always describe it kind of like the Chinese takeout meat you get. It's almost like foamy in a good way. It's like this super tender, really unique texture. And when you have like tough old cuts of goose, like an old goose or like a big old tom, that venison or the deer you've been stalking for years that has a huge rack, but it probably is tough as hell. Velveting will tenderize it and it will make it way more edible. So it is your friend. So to learn more about it, we have I think some of my recipes on Harvest Nature show you how to velvet, so you can just go in there and follow those.
And really, I think we've covered a lot just in the last like 30 minutes.
Just
so
going through it.
We'll give everybody a break. Take a break. Just breathe a little bit. Take a sip of your drink. If you're driving though, unless it's water or something else.
Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car riding your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
Last week was our first playoff game, and my plaque psoriasis was so itchy under all my gear. Sometimes just thinking about scratching could take me out of the moment. And then my doctor told me I could get clearer skin with a pill called Otezla.
Otezla apremilast is a prescription medicine used to treat adult patients with plaque psoriasis for whom phototherapy or systemic therapy is appropriate. Otezla can help you get clearer skin after just 4 months.
Okay, ready for the next game. Talking to my doctor about a pill was a total game changer.
Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Get medical help right away if you have trouble breathing or swallowing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue, throat, or arms. Severe diarrhea, nausea or vomiting, depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss can happen. Tell your doctor if any of these occur and if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts. Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla. Call 1-844-4-OTEZLA or visit Otezla.com for prescribing info about cost, and more.
Let's talk a little bit about what wild foods work well in a stir fry, because I think that'll really kind of set us up to talk about the recipes after. So I think probably I go back to one of my favorite things to stir fries is deer or antelope or elk. Like, those are pretty great, fantastic meats, very similar to they perform similarly to beef in stir fries. So there's no great distinction because you're using those leaner, tougher cuts, which sometimes venison is. As far as cuts of meat, I think loin are good candidates. You get the steaks off the round, either top or bottom, that are good candidates as long as they're sliced thin. I would stir fry the flat iron too, especially on some smaller animals, because you're just getting a couple little slices on there. Just slice that up and mix it with some other meat. I would stay away from your more tough, sinewy cuts, just because you're not going to get what you expect out of that. You're still going to end up with a really tough meat. So
I really like the eye around. Because it's so small in a lot of the deer I cut up. I just thinly slice that whole thing, and that's like a stir fry dinner right there. And it works really nicely for it.
I think you already mentioned goose and duck breasts. I think those are great candidates for it, just because too you can undercook them a little bit too, so that fast high heat works really well. And then turkey breast. I don't know. Can't say that I've stir fried much fish other than shrimp. Mm-hmm. And then I make a really great crab fried rice, but I don't know what you've done more fish.
Yeah, I've done quite a bit. You want to stray away from the super flaky fish, because they'll just flake apart on you, obviously.
With the big chunky ones.
Yeah, so something that's a little more chunky. I found lake fish I've done, pike works quite nicely actually for it.
Ooh, I like pike.
Where something like perch or crappie might just fall apart into it, so you kind of got to choose wisely. Things like ocean fish like tuna or swordfish make great candidates for it, because they kind of stay together. They're a lot more hardy.
Shark
would
be good.
Shark, I've done it before, yeah. Anything that has that kind of dense kind of flesh. I'm thinking, I don't know if it's orange roughy. There's another one that has that. But anyways.
Catfish?
Yeah, that would probably work too, actually. You got to go super light. You got to be very careful with your spoon while you're stirring. And it only takes a minute to cook. So you want to have everything really ready to go. And you want to have a very light sauce. You don't want to get it too saucy. But you can cook other things too, like mussels, oysters, whelks, clams. You can do pretty much any kind of seafood you can scrape off the ocean floor. So
alligator, iguana,
yep,
crawfish,
yeah, there's so many things. You can do insects after.
Oh yeah,
we're eating insects again at the camp. Compliments of Ali Moore, who we had on the podcast.
Your box came in today.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, insect box.
Excited.
Wild mushrooms, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I do that a lot. Whether I do a wild mushroom focused stir fry or just add wild mushrooms to my stir fry.
You can also take mushrooms from the store and rehydrate them, like the dried ones, some of the cooler varieties, and add those into the stir fry. Just make sure you drain them before you add them in.
Yeah, you want to squeeze them dry, because it introduces a little too much water to the wok if you throw them in all sodden. But don't get rid of that water, because you can use that in your stir fry sauce. That the water that you soak the mushrooms in is super flavorful, so you don't want to get rid of it. Or you could cook your rice in it too.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one.
I have a ton of dried mushrooms that I've collected from the woods and dried in my dehydrator. And often I'll just take a mix. I just have them all different containers. I'll just take a mix and crumble them all up and cook them in my rice. You don't even have to rehydrate them, because they kind of rehydrate while the rice is cooking.
That's a really good idea too.
Or I'll just throw them into the stir fry just to add a little more texture and mushroom flavor, because I love it. And because I harvest so many damn mushrooms, I have to get rid of this stuff somehow or another. So
No, don't brag.
Yeah. More than I could eat.
Wild greens, too, I think are a lot. So I could think of, like, dandelion, you could stir-fry. Ramps, you could stir-fry.
Nettles.
Lamb's
quarters.
Man, pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, leafy greens are good to go.
Yeah. Think of spinach. Anywhere you could put spinach, you could put a wild green, basically. So spinach does well in stir-fry. You could also do, like, wild vegetables. There's, like, roots, like burdock roots or parsnip roots or wild carrot roots. You do shoots, like cattail shoots. Really nice. They have this nice cucumbery flavor. Different types of buds. Blossoms you can do, too. You could do, like, milkweed blossoms. I've done that before and done, like, a milkweed blossom stir-fry.
The, like pods chilies on them?
I've done the pods as well, actually, but before the pods come out, they blossom out like this loose broccoli kind of thing. Really cool and delicious. So you want to blanch those. There's a way to do those properly. So you're gonna want to Google that. But yeah, you could just blanch them and then stir fry them, and they're quite delicious. And talk about blanching, that's the one thing we missed. A small tangent. If you got, like, say, some bell peppers, zucchini and some mushrooms and raw broccoli. Those things aren't going to cook at the same time because that raw broccoli needs a lot more time to cook. The best thing you can do is get a little pot of water going, or just in your wok. Get it boiling, cut your broccoli up, throw it in there for 1 minute, drain it, shock it in cold water, and then set it back in with your vegetables to stir fry. That way it's pre-cooked a little bit and it will cook at the same rate as the rest of your tender vegetables. Same can be said for any tough, fibrous kind of vegetable. You don't want to throw those in at the same time as your tender ones. So it's something we missed there.
Yeah, no, that's a good tip on that too. Yeah, I think I never really thought about parboiling anything until I got into the restaurants and I learned a lot about it. And now, like, I'll parboil green beans, I'll parboil fresh green peas. Like, there's a lot of vegetables that can be good candidates to parboil that'll just, like, not end up weird when you try to cook them in that manner. All right, let's talk about some recipes. We got time.
I was going to say leftovers is the last thing, too. Don't sleep on your leftovers to throw into a quick lunch stir fry. Chop up some, like, rare venison or some leftover rabbit you got in there and just huck it in with some vegetables and a quick stir in there, and you have, like, a super simple, easy lunch if you're at home. So that's something you definitely don't want to sleep on. The possibilities are pretty much endless.
Endless possibilities. No, there's so much. You'll appreciate it after this. After we're done, you'll be like, man, I'm going to stir fry everything. Do you want to lead us off with your recipe there?
Sure. So I started off with a venison and snow pea stir fry. The best thing about this recipe, and it's on the Harvest Nature website, is that you can make it with venison or with any other cut of meat, and with snow peas or any other vegetable. So it's really simple, infinitely riffable. You can kind of use this as, like, the kind of a base as your stir fry recipe. And like the Chinese, like, I find in Western recipes, often the stir fry is full of, like, 30 different vegetables and meats and ingredients, and often the Chinese ones just have a couple ingredients and, showcase one or two things. So I kind of stuck more to this. I like both styles, but I kind of stuck to the Chinese style on this one. So basically you can slice a venison loin, sirloin, round, flank, even a shoulder into really thin slices. Take a teaspoon of baking soda, tablespoon of water, tablespoon of soy sauce, a tablespoon of Chinese Shaoxing cooking wine, and I call for this a lot. You can get it in any Asian market. You might be hard-pressed to find it in your normal grocery store, but it's just like a Chinese cooking wine. The flavor really comes through in a lot of different Chinese recipes, but you could use cooking sherry or just leave it out altogether, but I find it does make things taste better. A little bit of sesame oil, and then the cornstarch, like I said. So I'm going to mix that baking soda together with water in a bowl, add the venison, toss it well, and let it marinate for about 20-30 minutes. At this point, I like to prepare my rice because there's been so many times where I started cooking my stir fry, I'm like, shit, didn't make the rice to go with it. And then the stir fry sits and gets gross while the rice cooks. So start with your rice. You can rinse the meat under cold water, getting rid of that baking soda. It can get a little bit bitter. I find if I have, like, a strong sauce, I don't bother, but if it's like a light sauce, I do. Then I'm going to marinate it with the soy sauce, wine, sesame oil, and cornstarch for another 10 minutes. Then I'm going to heat the fat or oil in. So I'll use duck fat or pork lard in my wok. Heat over high heat. Add that sliced marinated venison, withholding the liquids that have collected on the bottom, and stir frying, which is tossing and stirring often until brown, which takes only about 3 minutes or so. Add the trimmed snow peas, stir fry for a minute. Give the sauce a stir to reincorporate the cornstarch, and then add it to the wok. Turn the heat down to medium and cook until the sauce is thickened, and it is done. And that's it. It takes 15, 20 minutes, and it's delicious, and you can just use pretty much anything for it. So it's a great recipe.
I'm going to not go through as in great detail as Adam just did. Same concept. I'm going to talk about Natalie's venison heart stir fry. It's over on our website. So I think this one's really cool because it utilizes the heart, which is not often utilized for stir fry, but I think it's a great candidate. We always talk about either high, fast heat or low and slow forever for hearts. So this is a perfect meal for that. So you're going to need one white-tailed deer heart, or we'll say venison heart of varying sorts. Teriyaki sauce, soy sauce, lemongrass paste, or minced fresh lemongrass. That's the bottom white part of the stock if you get it at the store. Garlic, oyster sauce, rice vinegar, water, sesame oil, cane sugar, and of course, the best, the one, the only Harvest Nature small game blend, and some cornstarch, and then for garnish, green onion diced up. So you're just going to combine all that in varying steps. As Adam mentioned, Natalie starts with the heart and then works her way through, but you'll get this delicious, yummy thing, and you can serve it over noodles or you can serve it over rice. Either way, I think you're really, really going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Let's do 2 more.
Sure.
Dealer's choice.
I'll take the bullhead fried rice because most of these recipes kind of follow the same steps. So for this is another recipe I made. It's a nice spring recipe. Bullhead and ramp fried rice. So catfish can be stir fried apparently because I've done it before. So bullhead catfish, also known as the mud cat, used for this, and it's this spring fish usually caught in upstate New York in the spring. And I basically took it, velveted it in the same way using the baking soda, Shawshank wine, and all that stuff. Let it marinate, heated the fat, fried that fish until it was crispy. Took it out of the wok, cracked some eggs in, scrambled them, added the ramps, which are wild leeks, some chilies, red pepper, garlic. Cooked it all for about 30 seconds. Add in the pre-cooked cold rice, soy sauces, fish sauce. Flip that fish back in, as well as the cooked eggs, and cook for 2 minutes, and then it's done. Serve with some sprinkled ramps on top. It's I don't know how good it sounds if you're not looking at the picture, but it's a really good, really tasty dish. So I hope you guys check that out on the Harvest Nature website.
I'm going to talk about this spicy squirrel stir fry, which I think is it's a really cool one because it uses small game, so that's really awesome. I would predict that if we had the small game blend back then, because this recipe from 2016, he would have used it, but that's okay that he didn't. So he makes his own delicious stir fry sauce: honey sriracha, ginger paste, soy sauce, sesame oil, rice vinegar, orange zest, and 2 garlic cloves minced. What I think is really cool about this recipe, that he cooks the squirrels separately in the oven and then incorporates them into the dish sort of later on after the vegetables have cooked. So it's kind of the same process that we've talked about, sort of progressing through, going from your aromatics into your meat, into your vegetables, and their sauce. So he did that. It's just he uses squirrel quarters, so he wanted to cook those thoroughly before he actually incorporated, which makes a lot of sense. And then he pulled them back out and seared them, and that was really cool. He offers up the fact that you can debone them, and then he sautés the veggies, adding all that in, and then when the veggies are done, reincorporates the squirrel meat back in, and then lastly adds the stir-fry sauce into it. So kind of like a little different technique than what we've talked about through and through, but I think it falls within the same principle of you're just using some different meat. So think about essentially you're using braised meat or something like that in the place, which is also common as well to get that sort of crispy, yummy crunch on it to have it. So definitely some cool steps and different stuff like that. But I don't know, Adam, last thoughts on sort of stir frying writ large.
I think I love stir fries for wild game. First of all, because it's quick and easy and all the things we mentioned, super tasty. But also because you tend to use much less meat for a meal. So I could use, half a pound to a pound of meat to feed a family of 4 in a stir fry, where it might take a lot more than that, doing another dish if I was using steaks or chops or something like that. So I always found that if you don't have a ton of wild game in the freezer, stir fries are a great way to kind of stretch things out. Do as the Chinese do, add meat in small amounts rather than a ton of meat, and you have some incredible dishes that don't use up your whole freezer of meat. So it's kind of one of the cool benefits of stir fries I've found.
Yeah. No, I agree. I like it. I think it's a quick, we mentioned in the beginning, quick, easy weeknight meal. You're super busy. Oh, we got 4 things in the refrigerator. I always keep lots of cool, fun sauces on hand. And I would say, too, like, just because you're stir frying doesn't mean you have to use Asian flavors. You can use any flavors.
Yeah. I made a Portuguese one 3 days, or I guess last week.
Yeah, we talked about the discada. I mean, it's all in like the ingredients, and really the sauce, I think, adds in a lot of like where you're going to get your flavor from. So just think through that. You can make some fun sauces. I would say, like, I'm just thinking through, like, a chimichurri stir fry would be super delicious. That would be really, really good. Or, some, if you want some like spicier ones, adding in some like varying hot sauces or things like that would be kind of cool. Lots to do and play with there. So I encourage you to adopt some more stir frying into your life. And I just want to thank everybody out there for listening. We'll include all the show notes here for this episode down below wherever you're listening to it at, or on our website. And then make sure you head over to social media and check both the Intrepid Eater and Harvesting Nature out. And then whatever podcast platform you're listening to, punch that 5-star button. Leave us a review. They really do help us. Small business, go us. Helps bring us to the top. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.